Happy Saturday to you. Somebody turned on the air conditioning out there and we don't have to pay for it today. That's what I'm talking about. Get past this summertime and get down where it doesn't cost me much to live over there. No air conditioning, don't have to turn on the heat, just kind of cruise. We got a few weeks of free aircon. Well, you're listening to Live with Lou. If you just stumbled across here, you thought, who is this? What is this station? So I think somebody said one time we're supposed to tell you that. So this is the Patriot, 1410 a.m. Lou Benninger here. We're going to be here for 3 hours live, really live, not fake live, not pre-recorded live. So Wiki Man sitting out here with me on the other side of the glass. Santos Vigil to keep me straight. If I can't figure out an answer or have a brain freeze, we just look it up on Wikipedia. It answers all our questions really quick. So this is the time where I tell you how you can get a hold of us better or listen better. So it's 530-742-5555. And like all good Democrats, this is a pro-choice show, so we may have to abort your call if it's a cramp on my career or not convenient for me or you're the wrong gender, because we're into gender selection out here. This is a white man station out here, so if you're people of color, we may or may not take the call. Let's see, what else? Our live stream is not working. We paid the bill, but somebody didn't pay the bill, so we don't have any live stream. So that means if we sound funky, you're out there on the fringe area where the reception's not good, you're going to have to listen to us on YouTube in a few hours, later today maybe or tomorrow. If you go to One Eye Blind Media, 4 words with a space in between each word, One Eye Blind Media, and then click on Live with Lou icon, you can pick what show you want and listen. It's a little bit different than what we do here. They have to edit out some of the clips because of YouTube copyright issues and stuff. So, but Chris Starkey does that for us each week. He has that One Eye Blind Media channel, and we thank Chris. He's a great help to us. And in fact, if you want to advertise on his channel, you can give him a shout out. He's got a Facebook page, I think, of the same name, One Eye Blind Media. You could connect with him and say, hey, or if you need something filmed or recorded, Chris can do that for you. He's techie. He's a techie. So sorry for the no live stream. I know a lot of you, particularly over and so that means all our people out of state are not going to be able to listen to us today. So my apologies for that. And obviously you can't hear that, so... But everybody can, all those folks that have moved out of the area, you know, we now have refugees tax refugees that are moving out of California, and so a lot of them are moving to Idaho, and so they continue to listen, but they're just going to get a no sound today, and they'll probably text us during the show like, what's up, and we'll let them know then they can listen to One Eye Blind Media later on and catch the show. So maybe better luck next week on the YouTube. So we're sponsored by some really kind folks. The Church of Glad Tidings originally got me involved in this. So some people make donations to that through the church, and they to help sponsor the show. But we also have some business sponsors. Dave Green's Construction, the Plumbing Doctor, and you'll hear some commercials about them later. But the Yuba Sutter Constitutional Republicans, and we have that name to differentiate it from the regular Republicans because some are fairly passive and really just meet and look at each other and preach to the choir, and the other ones are activists. They're interviewing people. The Constitutional Republicans are interviewing candidates and going to endorse people after they talk to them, and they're getting involved in the politics of the area, which is needed. We'll talk more about that later, but if you want to get involved with them, they have a headquarters, and you can pick up signage and information on a variety of candidates at 441 Bridge Street, Suite E, Yuba City. It's over by the Cookie Tree, one of my favorite snack places that I can't eat too much of. So they are open over there for a variety of reasons. They have candidate nights over there for candidates they want to support, so they have events. But during the week, Monday through Saturday, they're open 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. at night. You can pick up signs. They got signs for no on K, yes on 6. Those are tax issues. 6 is the repeal of the gas tax and increased DMV fees. No on K is the to stop the increase on sales tax in Yuba County. They've got John Cox for governor signs. They've got all kinds of signs over there. So go get them. Do something. Just don't sit around and think things are going to get better. And we're going to talk about the Kavanaugh hearings. If you think things are not at a crisis level in the country, either you're under the influence of something or you just don't give a rip. And people like you are the reason. You know, if you ever wonder why, you think, how come people just let the communists take over Russia? Or how come the people let the communists take over China? Or how come the people let the communists take over Vietnam or Cambodia or Laos? Well, there are people just like you who just sit around and think they can just turn over the government to other people and never hold them accountable, never watch over them, never check on them, never hold them up for questioning about their behavior, never take things into their own hands when the government isn't doing a good job, right? So that's how things get really screwed up, and we need people that are going to do something. So if you've never put a sign in your yard, put a sign in your yard. Find people like that will join you to vote a certain way, right? Whatever way you're going to stand on something, tell your neighbors, this is what I'm going to do, and this is why. It's time to motivate some folks. So the Yuba Sutter Constitutional Republicans are trying to light a match and get things going to get people fired up and make some change. So they also have a show on this channel, this station, tomorrow from 1 to 3 called Yuba Sutter's Political Spotlight. So you might want to check into that if you want to find out. They'll probably be talking about the propositions and candidates that are running, and I don't know whether they'll talk about Kavanaugh hearings or not. There's plenty of coverage on that already. If I found it fascinating, I was looking on looking some stuff up the last couple of days because I was trying to put together loose picks because people are starting to ask me for what I'm going to do on some of these election issues. And Proposition 9, there's like a dozen propositions on the ballot, and plus measures. Measures are usually letters, propositions are numbers. And so I think Proposition 9, it says the Secretary of State's website, Proposition 9 has been removed. And that Proposition 9 was Tim Draper's attempt. Tim Draper is a Silicon Valley bajillionaire. And Tim Draper's been trying repeatedly to separate the state into different numbers of states, different from Jefferson. We're into the state of Jefferson here. That's why we're broadcasting here from Yuba County, a part of the state of Jefferson, over 20 counties that want to secede, not from the Union, but separate from California, start a state of Jefferson. So it's interesting that Tim Draper, I wasn't supportive of the way he wanted to separate the state. However, he qualified his ballot initiative with the proper number of signatures, and the state Supreme Court just stepped in and just said, we're not going to go for that. Unbelievable. It's unbelievable that we're not going to get to vote on that, even though I would have voted no. It's still, Tim Draper spent the money, and they went through all the rigmarole to get millions of signatures, or hundreds of thousands. I don't know how many they needed, but they got them, and they were approved to go on the ballot, and the Supreme Court said, we don't think you're going to do that. That's kind of like Brian Aronson over here in Sutter County deciding that they weren't going to let the grand jury report be released because they didn't like the outcome of it. It's interesting, isn't it? I had a lady call me yesterday, real estate lady, said, hey, somebody said you know about the grand jury, and like, what's going on with the grand jury? And she wanted to get informed. How come we're not getting a grand jury report? And did the grand jury quit? And did they impanel another one? People are just trying to figure out what's going on. So you could probably call in at the Yuba Sutter Political Spotlight tomorrow from 1 to 3, and you could ask questions, and they could probably answer them for you. All right. What I think you ought to do, here's another thing I think you ought to do. If you want to do something, this stuff doesn't even cost you any money. It just costs you a minute. And so you can call any senator you want and tell them what you feel about these Kavanaugh hearings. You can, even though Feinstein and Kamala Harris are twisted individuals, you can still give them hell over the phone. And you could call any of these senators around the United States, there's 2 per state, and you could say, vote for Kavanaugh, right? Do the right thing. Do the honest thing. And put pressure on them. The more and more and more, you know, if a guy's leaning or a lady's leaning one way or the other, it may push them over the edge to vote for Kavanaugh. If you don't do anything, you're leaving it up to the people that are the forces of evil. It's not Democrat and Republican, it's forces of evil that are trying to destroy people in this country if you stand up for right? If you're a white guy, if you're a Christian, if you don't believe transsexuals should read to kids in the classroom, transsexual story hour, if you don't believe that men should be allowed into little girls' bathrooms and locker rooms, you get trashed. They'll trash you. So check it out, and that's one group. And the other group that Elite Universal Security, which they're always patrolling around my neighborhood because I'm in a commercial area, and there's all kinds of people over there that are trying to panhandle, take your stuff, steal stuff from you, steal out of your car. And Elite Universal Security has been hired by businesses because the police cannot keep up with it. The city of Marysville, where I live, is so out of control that the police cannot keep up with it. So businesses have now had to hire their own enforcement groups to come in, and Elite Universal Security is one of those. And if you want to get any signage, Elite Universal Security at 5548 Feather River Boulevard. I used to call it West Linda, but now they call it Olivehurst, just off Highway 70. Very easy to get to. You can pick up signs there as well as over in Yuba City. If you're on the Yuba County side, you can pick up signs or if you're down from Nevada County or whatever county you're from, if you need some Yes on 6 signs, which is the repeal of the gas tax, you can pick them up there 24 hours a day because it's a security company and they operate around the clock just like law enforcement. And if you want No on K, if you're a Yuba County resident and you want to fight this increase in sales tax, you can get signs there as well. And actually, I got a governor sign, Cox for Governor, there, and as soon as I got it, one of my friends wanted it, so I had to give it to him. But you can get more signs there. And I just looked on Monty Hecker, his Elite Universal Security sign, or his website, and they are hiring all over the place. They're saying they want to hire folks all up and down the valley here to work in security work. So if you're looking for a job, dial them up or at 749-0280, 749-0280. You can go on their website. You can go on, and they got all kinds of classes. If you want to get a concealed weapons permit, they got classes coming up October 13th and 14th. And you could get the classroom and the range day. You can get recertified. They got a taser class and a pepper spray class if you want to like become an expert in hosing people down with pepper spray. October 6th, check that out. So 5548 Feather River Boulevard, very fast to get to. I stopped in there after we left the station the other day and grabbed me some signs. or if you want to call out there first, 749-0280, to make sure they have some signs available, that they've run out or not. But they got them. You'll see when you drive up close to them, you'll see signage right on the fence there, so you know you got the right place. Okay. Let's see what else, and to get going here, I saw this come through, a little deal on my Facebook page. Says every woman has a right to be believed. Sounds fair, huh? Unless you're raped by Bill Clinton, or silenced by Hillary Clinton, or emotionally and physically abused by Keith Ellison, the Muslim congressman, or groped by Cory Booker, the senator from New Jersey, or left for dead by Ted Kennedy, the icon of the Democratic Party. I like this. It says police in Mayfield have arrested three of four well-known Islamic terrorists: Ben Snorton, Ben Dealin, and Ben Thievin. So far, there's no sign of Ben working out there. Just thought, just throw that in. The hypocrisy and the liars involved in this Democrat assault on Brett Kavanaugh is unbelievable. The guy running against this Beto that's running against Cruz down in Texas, he's got a burglary arrest in 1995, and he's got a DWI or DUI arrest in 1998. And he actually left the scene. No issue with that, right? But we have to have a thorough investigation of Mr. Kavanaugh after they've already done 6 FBI investigations. Because he was somehow under the influence in 1980. Now, Beto's issues, burglary and driving under the influence, were 1995 and 1998. But we got to go all the way back on Mr. Kavanaugh because. Isn't that interesting? You have a right to be believed if you're a woman, unless you're Juanita Broderick, Paula Jones, Jennifer Flowers, Bobby Williams. You may not know Bobby Williams. She's black, and President Clinton had a son with her. He's still trying to get his dad to acknowledge him, the son of Bobby Williams. Monica Lewinsky and Kathleen Willey. I don't know whether the president's assault on Kathleen Willey caused this, but her husband ended up ending his own life. It's interesting, isn't it? I've often thought of this. When I was a youngster, I just loved to play athletics. I like to go to the gym. I like to play basketball. And I just loved to watch sports. I just couldn't get enough of it. I just watched it, listened to it. Back in the days when they weren't so much on television, you could listen to the radio and listen to baseball on the radio. It was unbelievable. But over the years, I'm less and less interested in sports. And this one guy wrote this, says, something to ponder. The United States has become a place where entertainers and professional athletes are mistaken for people of importance. What you think about that? How important are they? What if they all drop dead tomorrow? Would it make any difference to your life this afternoon? Or the next day? If all the entertainers and professional athletes died, who are the most important people in your life outside of your family members? Well, maybe a doctor, Maybe a teacher, maybe a farmer, maybe an auto mechanic, plumber, house painter. Just lots of people that you really count on that have a skill that helps you make it through life, right? Helps you function through life. Maybe it's a counselor for your child or a counselor for you and your husband, right? Really have really important information. I've been talking to a gal on Facebook who has been getting beat up regularly by her husband. She used to be locked up at Yuba County Jail. She's from Brazil and had a immigration issue, but they released her. But she contacted me. She said, I need some help, right? She lives up in Redding. And so I may be more important than a person playing in the World Series to her. Think a person playing in the World Series is going to make any difference to her? Or an entertainer that she can go watch, act, make believe? So we put all this, Hollywood, this person, that one. Actually, they're just all actors. They're making believe they are somebody else. And we just, I've been in the ER when people are cussing and spitting and mocking doctors, and I thought, at least that person stayed in school. Studied, worked really hard, became really bright. And you didn't even graduate from high school that you're calling them an effer. Like old Larry Munger, the supervisor over in Sutter County, Larry Munger, Larry the effer Munger. He called the dollar store people that have worked really hard to build up a series, big corporation called the dollar store, and he calls them effers. Interesting, isn't it? What kind of people are out there? So, sometimes we need to think about who are the most important people in our life. You got your family, and then you got a lot of people that you rely on running your kid to the doctor, got a broken bone, this, that. How many actors ever fixed anything for you? Or how many entertainers? Or how many baseball players, right? Or what's Colin Kaepernick ever done for you? Something to think about. Well, I was thinking about this, some of the characters that are doing a character assassination on Brett Kavanaugh. And I'm going to read, when we come back, I'm going to read you out of Genesis 19, and it talks about a bunch of really bad actors, bad characters that were trying to attack supernatural beings in the city of Sodom. And when I think of that, I think of people like Richard Blumenthal, who is a liar senator from Connecticut, the second most rich guy in the Senate. Very wealthy. He married into his wealth. And he lied during his campaign in 2011, claiming he fought in Vietnam. Now, and I love it when they say they misspoke. No, you got confused about the truth. And he claims Kavanaugh is going to be a stain on the Supreme Court, but isn't Blumenthal a stain on the Senate, who claims after we lost over 50,000 Americans in Vietnam, he claims he was a hero in Vietnam. And then when they called him on it, he misspoke. These people are lowlife, folks. You think, homeless, drug addicts are low. No. The people on that Senate, in that Senate chambers, are the lowlife in our United States. And I'm going to tell you something about it, a few of them in a minute. Be right back.
Article 4, Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution lays out the framework for the state of Jefferson's plan to split California. A state can be formed from the land within another state if the state legislature and Congress approve it with a simple majority vote. 51% is all it takes. Your vote doesn't count in Northern California. California is broken and the time has come for 51. Please visit soj51.net and donate now to show your support.
Check out the Territorial Dispatch. Papers are weekly and can be obtained free at distribution or by mail through subscription. It's the only locally owned and operated newspaper in the region. The paper is the rest of the story. And also check out the E-Territorial. It's an online version of the Territorial Dispatch which features local news and events for the Yuba Sutter, Colusa, and Nevada County areas. You'll also find daily and breaking news updates, current traffic, and weather information, along with a calendar of local events. Visit the E-Territorial at eterritorial.com.
Welcome back. This is Lou Benninger. You're listening to Live with Lou. We're into our, I don't know. We've only done, we're just working through our second half hour. Well, we've been getting a few calls because we had some live stream issues, and people are saying, Lou, we can hear out here. So some of the folks from Idaho they said, we're listening online at streema.com, STREEMA.com. All these people are more sophisticated than me. Another listener said, we're listening at tunein.com, TUNEIN.com. Another listener said, we downloaded an app called Simple Radio. Go to the App Store and click on Simple Radio, and they can get it there. Another listener said, what's up? Can only white people listen to the show? Well, actually, I'm not control of who listens to the show. Demons, angels, God, Pharisees, Sadducees, white, brown, black, pink. I like to make fun of it because of color, because there's Black History Month, there's Latino History Month, there's all these special deals, Black Lives Matter. And I just want to remind people that everybody matters, white people matter. And but it is a pro-choice show because I pay to be on the air, so I can choose to do whatever I want. And so can you. So my recommendation to you, if you don't like the show, don't listen to it. As soon as you have that feeling inside, your hair stands up on the back of your neck, your palms get sweaty, you need some more underarm deodorant, click the show off immediately and move to something more pleasant. So someone said, should there be an FBI investigation because of the Ford accusations? And the answer was, damn right there should be, but not of Kavanaugh. Said, let's look at her phone records. They should be pulled. Her bank records should be pulled. In fact, all her financial records should be pulled. Democrats who met with her, colluded with her, paid her, planned with her, coached her, or have associated with her at all should all be called out. Then all their records should be pulled and investigated. I smell more than a rat here. Now, they kept showing, at least I saw on my feed, Shirley Jackson Lee, who's a black lady, congresswoman from Texas. And she handed something like a small envelope to the attorney for Dr. What's her last name? Dr. something? Ford. Dr. Ford. And people say, oh, look at that. Look like, well, maybe it was something, maybe it wasn't. But I found it so fascinating. Now, the gal has taken time off work, I guess, poor gal. And she traveled, I guess, from California to Washington. I don't know. That probably costs all less than $1,000, right? Had to stay somewhere. So she's got some expenses. They have paid her. She has collected over $600,000. Can you think that would incentivize you to, did you know that? Oh, yeah. People have donated over $600,000, and I don't know how much the Democrats paid her to come and do her thing. She is a clueless witch, that Dr. Ford. If you think, oh, well, we feel really sorry for her, something must have happened. Forget that. You believe that people can't remember who had sex with them? Are you kidding me? And then if you can't actually remember it, you were so out of your mind, you're going to actually drop Kavanaugh's name? One of my friends from up in Gridley emailed me a list of news articles that I'm not going to take time to go through them and read you the very sad stories of men that have been in prison for 20, 30, nearly 40 years for rape, innocent, the thing got overturned. They were falsely accused. People never really saw them but thought they saw them, right? And then they were released because people believed them and attorneys got on their side and dredged up all the evidence. And so this crap that people are saying, well, you know, if you're really traumatized, you don't remember stuff like, come on, man, this is nonsense. That gal's a ding-a-ling, and they paid her off to come in there and do a hack job on him. Now, let me tell you about Shirley Jackson Lee. In 2005, her net worth was $175,000. 2005, when she became a congresswoman. You know what it is today? I want you to think about this. $3.5 million she's worth today. 10 years. Now, she didn't earn that money by being a congresswoman. You can look that up on how much they make. They make between $100,000 and $200,000, right? Even with all the benefits. I want you to think about that for a minute. Shirley Jackson Lee, in December of 2017, got on a United Airline plane and bumped an attorney, a female attorney/teacher, out of her first-class seat. And when the gal realized, the gal that was supposed to have that seat went up to get her seat, and they said, well, you know, you canceled or something. She said, I didn't cancel. United jacked this woman around and gave her seat to Shirley. There's no record of her seat being canceled. She got jacked around by Shirley Jackson Lee, who took that woman's seat. Then when the woman threw a fit about it with United, of course, Shirley Jackson Lee, being black, claimed it was racist, that the woman wanted her seat. And the woman had actually had a series of flights. She was working back from, I think, South America and flying back up into the United States. And Jackson Lee bumped her up. And so they gave this other woman named Simone a coupon for future flight and put her back in the cheap seats. That's the kind of person Shirley Jackson Lee is. Then you have Kamala Harris, who screwed her way to the top, starting out with Willie Brown. Now, I want you to think about this. This gal is judging and criticizing and mocking an honest, moral guy. And she screwed around for a long period of time with Willie Brown, who's been married for 3 or 4 decades and had kids. And got some benefits from Willie Brown when he was mayor of San Francisco, of like getting on different committees that paid money. So that's Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is the gal who was Attorney General in California when investigative journalists or reporters uncovered Planned Parenthood selling baby parts. And instead of going after Planned Parenthood, who she supports financially, and they support her, she began prosecution of the journalists. I want you to think about that. Coons, Senator Coons, was so distraught this last week, he's on the Judiciary panel, that he followed Larry Munger in dropping the F-bomb right in the Senate chambers because he realized Jeff Flake was going to vote in favor of moving the Kavanaugh nomination over to the full Senate floor to vote on. Feinstein, she's just the rich witch of San Francisco. Nobody even investigated her after they realized that when the CIA or the FBI, one of the two, informed her that she had a spy, a Chinese spy. It's interesting that she would have a Chinese driver for 19 or 20 years, the last 19 or 20 years. Nothing against Chinese folks, right? But it just happened to be, I wonder why it's Chinese. Do you know she's had close ties with now the president of China, back from when he was a mayor, I think, of Shanghai or something. She and her husband, who have made hundreds of millions of dollars off dealings with China while she's been a senator, and on these top committees in the Senate. And she just happened to have picked a spy for a driver. Nobody seems to be concerned about that. Nobody wants to investigate that, but they want to investigate something about a high school yearbook on a Supreme Court nominee. I mentioned Richard Blumenthal. What a absolute jerk. An absolute jerk. Guy had, it's one thing if you want to lie about, well, you have a master's degree, but you really don't, a doctorate degree, but you really don't, or you change schools or where you got it from because you want to seem more prestigious. This guy is such a lowlife. This guy's a scumbag. That he would actually claim he fought in Vietnam, when we have an entire wall of names in Washington, D.C. of people that gave their life in Vietnam, and then we have another probably tens of thousands of folks that came home with missing body parts, that are living a life working around not having a couple legs or missing an arm or an eye. In fact, I have a friend in Sacramento that's missing an eye from Vietnam. I visited a guy at Letterman Hospital during the Vietnam War that was my age, minus 2 legs. And guys like these jerks, these losers. You got Ted Kennedy, amazing that they all praise Ted Kennedy. And he not only left the woman in that car underwater, he didn't try to save her. Then he goes home and goes to bed. Is that shocking? And then they lawyer up. The Kennedys lawyer up for this guy, right? To explain, well, it's all explainable. He was in shock, like Dr. Ford. He was just such in shock. It's just like, we should just empty the jails out. Poor Yuba County Jail, we should empty it out, send all the deputies home for a few weeks and give them a break. Because all these people have been traumatized in their life and went out and burglarized somebody or beat somebody over the head or stabbed somebody or shot somebody or sold some heroin. It's just unbelievable, people. Are you like susceptible to believing this baloney? We should literally break the phone lines down in the United States, telling these people to go to hell and back there. What do they think they're doing? You think that the bad people are locked up and down the state of California? The bad people are back there screwing you and screwing me? And if you're going to take down a Brett Kavanaugh, the people that are actually on that, sitting behind those desks, are the corrupt ones. And we're going to let them get away. It's interesting. Jeff Flake, it won't be too long, and he will not be Senator Flake anymore. He'll just be a flake. That's all he's going to be. Thank God, man. That guy is such a pitiful human being. He's just going to be a flake. Thank God for it. Let's see if he can just make it out there. Just such a disappointing hack. Well, we're going to touch on, I think we got a clip or so, maybe touch on this later. But I wanted to mention, before we get done here with this hour, by the way, I'm thankful that you guys contacted us to say there's ways to listen clearly, because you're more techie than I. You're informing me. In fact, I've been talking to people all morning that said, oh, well, do this, do that, do the other thing. Here's something here, here's something there. In fact, I'm going to have some Diamond Dean Price news from Gridley here pretty soon. I just got an update on that. Diamond Dean, he's the second most expensive law enforcement person in the state of California, and he's up here in little old Gridley. He makes over $300,000 a year. Diamond Dean. I don't know how. I'm going to pull up an old article. Anyway, I wrote an article this week. It's interesting that the Yuba County's government newspaper, the Appeal Democrat, has never covered this, that Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association has said Measure K violates Proposition 218. And I wrote an article, put it in the e-territorial, and I'll clean it up and update it and put it in the hard copy paper this weekend. But we've been saying all along that the Yuba County supervisors have mislabeled and misdescribed their Measure K. The way they describe it, it's a special tax, and it's going to be dedicated to fire and police and vital services, and there's going to be a special fund to set money aside, and there's going to be an advisory committee to manage it. That all fits into what is described as a special election, and it should have a 2/3 vote to get it passed, to only spend it for those things. They don't want to admit they've done a hack job at promoting this, and the supervisors and the people they've hired with our tax dollars illegally, approaching $200,000 of our tax dollars. They've done a hack's job, and they've described this tax in terms that mandate that it's a 2/3 vote for approval tax. But when they passed the ordinance, they said you just need 50% plus one vote. So I was talking to Terry Hansen, the county clerk of Yuba County. I talked to her representative this week, and I said, help me out here. I don't understand who's supposed to be doing what. So as a county clerk, you're putting stuff on the ballot. You're creating a ballot, but you have no say in critiquing the rightness or wrongness of a measure like this. And they said, Lou, we don't. They said we don't have any legal mandate. She said we got to follow the law, so certain things we got to be on it and examine documents and make them match up with the state requirements. But on measures, she said, whatever they tell us to do, she said the Board of Supervisors tell us what to do, and we have to do that, and the county council. And even if we wonder about it, we have to put it the way they say it. And then if people want to take it to court afterwards, if the thing passes, but it isn't correct, people can take it to court. And I said, oh, you mean like the water issue that Charlie Matthews qualified for the ballot? And she said, yeah, Lou, we felt that that was done incorrectly. We should have been, it came to us, and we had the right to put that on the ballot as a county clerk, and we didn't believe what was done with the water agency was correct. So it's interesting that now the Howard Jarvis of all the cities and counties, all counties and cities up and down the state of California, there's thousands of cities and all kinds of, and there's 58 counties. A lot of them are trying to get more money out of the people because politicians have agreed with the unions to do this incredible pension system that is breaking the entire state. Agency after agency, city after city, county after county. And so they're all asking for money. But the Howard Jarvis people, after looking at the ordinance the way it's written, looking at all the advertisements, the supervisors' trash talk on Facebook and all this kind of stuff, they said, quote unquote, in the letter they sent to the Board of Supervisors that they've never really made public, or the Appeal Democrats not wanted to talk about it, that Measure K is a special tax. I'm quoting right out of the letter. It will need 2/3 voter approval, not a simple majority. And they referred the supervisors to the city of Roseville lawsuit 15 years ago when the city did the exact same thing, passed it, and then Howard Jarvis filed lawsuit, and Roseville lost the lawsuit. Proposition 218, passed many years ago, mandated that when we have new taxes wanted by politicians and they're for a specific purpose, then they have to have a 2/3 vote approval, not 50% plus one. But there's ways to skirt around it, and if you just want money, you just want more money for government, and you're not going to specifically use it for anything in particular, then you can get by with a 50% plus one. So what the Yuba County County Council did and the supervisors is they described an ordinance or a vote or a measure that needs a 66.67% pass rate, but they said we're only going to need a 50% plus one. And the Howard Jarvis taxpayers said, quote, unfortunately, should the board pass Measure K on less than two-thirds voter approval, it would violate Proposition 218. Consequently, Measure K could be subject to costly litigation. Now, they're not threatening, but I think they're saying, let's see, if this passes at 50% plus one and you think, oh, we got our money, we're probably going to be looking at a lawsuit and an injunction that not come to pass. Now, if you remember Magnolia Ranch, the supervisors wanted Magnolia Ranch subdivision, and the people got enough signatures to put on the ballot to vote against the Magnolia Ranch. And the people that wanted Magnolia Ranch took it to court 2 different times to block it from going on the ballot. And Judge Barrier said, can't block it. It's all legal schmeagle. And finally, they pulled the whole project. And so the way it works nowadays, folks, is government will violate the law anytime it wants. It's just like the Democrats are doing for the Supreme Court hearings. They'll violate the law. They'll cheat. They'll smear you. They'll throw you under the bus. It's happened here locally. I'll tell about it later. And the only way you can win, even when they violate the law, is if you have the money to hire attorneys. And at least in this situation with Yuba County, the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, thank God for them, it looks like they're going to litigate this unless the supervisors correct their ways before we get to an election. And this is a bad sign. It happens all the time. We're coming back for 2 more hours, so stick with us, particularly you white folks. I had to go get some coffee. How come you're drinking so much coffee? You drank a whole pot of coffee already. This is the only pay we get out here. We're talking for food out here, and so I went in there to get a cup of coffee, and there wasn't any left. You had the heater on. It was still truck, thought you're going to catch the place on fire. All right. Well, we're talking about all kinds of stuff today. No on K, the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, and I got all these people that are advising me now. People like texting me, say this, say that, don't do this, don't do that. You made a mistake over here. You're talking about white people too much. Hold on, I'm going to take a drink of coffee here. So this thing has got so specific. You're not, if you want a 50% plus one passage of a tax, you can't get all specific and mandate that it's used certain ways. That's a special tax. So we got Gary, the gift that keeps on giving Bradford, out there talking trash out on Facebook. That guy, he's like a teenager. He acts like a teenager. I think he did drugs or something, too many drugs when he was a teen. They say your maturity stops. You get big, but then your head is never matures. And he keeps saying that he's guaranteeing the people of Plumas Lake that they're going to get themselves their own deputy, a special deputy that just hangs out around Plumas Lake all day and monitors things. You can't do that, dog. So anyway, just like I said before we went to the break, government will violate the laws unless you're got the money and the courage to say you can't do that. Because a lot of people, they may even have the money, but they don't have the courage because they got their finger in the till or their hand in the till, and they don't want government to come after them. Some people say, well, I actually do some work for this part of government, and I don't think they'll give me any work if I if I don't agree with them, right? So, or my wife works for this agency, and if I do that, they're liable to fire her. Isn't it interesting? You think, oh, this isn't, we got a free country, we got a country that's fair, stands by the rules, by the rule of law. This thing's looking more fascist, more Stalinist. You know, in communism, they will shame community members and they'll tag them with they're enemies of the state, right? And they're not faithful to the state. They don't believe in pure communism. You know, it's interesting to me that the very people that are accusing Kavanaugh are immoral. You know, don't get into any misunderstanding that the Democrats are interested in morality. They'll screw a horse and think it's okay. They think it's all right to have sex with anything you can grope, and if you can find a hole, they think that's okay, right? An animal, any kind of person, same gender, whatever, right? If it creates AIDS, the problem is not AIDS. We'll get rid of AIDS. Just keep on having as much sex as you want any way you want to have it, right? And we'll provide you free condoms. They have got, you know, you can be screwing your wife and everybody else, and they're okay with that. But all of a sudden, if it's a Republican, if it's a guy like Kavanaugh who's faithful to his wife, has 2 young daughters, and is a good husband and father, and has a good reputation, they're going to smear that, even though they have a horrible... Now, Kamala Harris would love to be a Supreme Court judge. Now, what do you think her life's going to look like? You think they're going to look into all the people she screwed on the way to the top? No, they won't. They won't do that. It's like Lindsey Graham said when Sotomayor and Kagan came through, 2 females that the Democrats wanted to put forward for Supreme Court justice, he supported them. So there's multiple standards here. Double and multiple. And these people that are standing in judgment over Kavanaugh and harassing him, this isn't about, oh, they're going to change their vote if he gets a clean bill of health to the FBI. They've already declared, in fact, you heard that on a clip earlier, they declared early on they'll never support this guy. So what they're trying to do is create such a national furor that the Republicans will withdraw him, that Trump will withdraw him. And the way you can help, and it's not going to cost you a nickel, is get on email and blast their email sites and get on the phone and give them an earful and just light everything up back there, right? Because they're people. And I'm not saying make any death threats. That's what they do. I'm not suggesting maybe we should do that, but I'm just saying you could get intense. You know, even people like, remember Barbara Boxer used to be a senator from the state of California? Barbara, I want you to think about this. Barbara Boxer advocated not only partial birth abortion, but taking the child home, and if you decide it's not a keeper, to bring it back and they'll abort it. Still, after the child's out of the womb, breathing, having a happy, bring it back, and we'll abort it. If that doesn't get your attention. So what's happening on this Measure K in Yuba County? Raised taxes by 1%. My question is, if things are desperate, why doesn't Robert Bendorf cut his salary? $20,000, $30,000. Why didn't the supervisors cut their salary in half? If this is really desperate, why wouldn't the leaders show some leadership and set the tone? Everybody take a haircut, financial haircut. No, 5%, not 2%. Why doesn't the supervisors take a vote this week to eliminate supervisor retirement pay? I thought they were all supposed to be working in other jobs or retired from other jobs and have money coming in. Lofton gets a retirement check. Andy Vasquez has his own business. Why do they need another $80,000? And then they turn around and say, well, we ran out of money. Dang it, we ran out of money. And so we just want, now, you know, hey, you just need to pony up. Well, it's BS is what it is. And you think, oh, well, we just got to be fair to fire and police. I'm all for fire and police. In fact, I spend more time than most of you ever thought of spending helping fire and police. And I don't do it for your attention. I'm just saying, don't talk trash to me about, oh, fire and police, fire and police, fire and police. Yeah, I've been supporting them for many, many years, helping them. Well, if you don't support the tax, you're anti-fire. No, it's not anti-fire and police. Politicians created the CalPERS retirement system and health thing, and we can't afford it. That needs to change. Now, if the state needs to have a complete meltdown and we need to go without police for a while, then maybe we just need to have that until we get down and make the hard decisions. I've counseled people financially for years when I worked at Church of Glad Tidings, and people would be upside down $30,000 with credit card debt, and they still would continue to go out to eat and spend stupid stuff and charge on their charge cards. You just could, and it would take an entire complete meltdown like a divorce they just would not change. I'm telling you, these politicians are addicted to thinking that they're going to fix the world with your money, and they just want more of it, and it never ends. When supervisors are getting paid, I want you to think about this. 11, 12 years ago, supervisors in Yuba County were making half what they are today. And now they just think they just work their fingers to the bone, and my God, Yuba County would fall apart if it wasn't for them. Let me tell you something. God forbid that all of them would drop dead. But if they all drop dead tomorrow, the county would just go right on forward. County employees would go to work. Administration would go to work. People would pay the bills. Other people would be hired to replace them. And we could pay them $10,000 a year, and people would be thrilled about it. I get so sick of people saying, well, you only get what you pay for. Honestly, you people are nuts. There's people doing wonderful jobs being paid all kinds of things, all kinds of monies, because they think, hey, it's a good work. This is good work. Our founding fathers were not getting all this amazing pay, and they actually, some of them lost their entire estates fighting for this dream called the American dream or the American vision or the American experiment, whatever you want to call it. They didn't get no $80,000 a year, even comparative pricing back there. If people are really serious, they'd cut, right? To make these law enforcement guys to bolster the number of troops. You'd cut, like we do that in private business. We do that in churches. Happened in our church. I've told the story many times. I don't want to spend time on it. There's too much to talk about to go back and just give you an example. It's not like we're asking government to do something that the private sector's not doing. We do it every single day. Some people run businesses they own. They don't even take a salary because things are tight and they're trying to build a business and they got to pay their employees and they go without or they take just a little bit out. But we got these prima donnas, Scott Mitnick over in Sutter County, Robert Bendorf. Hey, it ain't working, guys. Don't come pleading to us, mooching off us. Cut your own damn salary. Pay your own fees to CalPERS. Turn in your per diem. Quit flying back and forth to Ventura County. If you love Ventura County, quit your darn job. We'll find somebody to work for $100,000 less. And I think I could find somebody myself to take over that job over there in Yuba City. It's just not that hard. Oh, yeah, we're especially, well, yeah, this and that. Come on, man. You guys are full of baloney. Just totally full of baloney. You guys that say, oh, well, they're not going to respond to our medical aids. Listen, Bi-County Ambulance in Yuba and Sutter County is going to respond to your medical aids whether or not that Measure K passes or not. They're a private enterprise that responds really well all throughout the two counties and does a good job. And you got fire departments up there that are going to continue to respond that are funded by other ways other than Measure K. So check it out. I'm moving on. Let's see. I want to talk about Proposition, not P. I've been, I'm dyslexic, so I've been calling it P, but it's 6. And if you vote yes on 6, recently, if you haven't noticed, somebody the other day said, "Man, I paid my DMV fees. Holy mackerel!" Right? Because they had a later model car. Probably they paid $150 extra on top of incredibly high DMV fees. We pay some of the highest DMV fees before they pass SB 1, which was to increase DMV fees more from 25 minimum to 175 maximum, above what you're already paying. So then they're charging 12 cents per gallon of gasoline, 20 cents per gallon of diesel on top of they said, "Oh, this is unbelievable." They say, "Oh my God, this is so." Jake Abbott, who I never met Jake Abbott, but I like people that write. I read their articles occasionally. But I have lost all confidence in Jake Abbott has lost all credibility with me. I thought the paper, I may not agree with their opinions on their opinion page, but I thought, they get the news right. But when he created fake news, Jake Abbott and Rachel Rosenbaum created fake news by reporting that Amanda Hopper's contention that Chris Carlos, who was running against her, and fired investigator Jason Parker, had concocted and found this guy to say he was her cousin, and the fact that she molested him. Jake Abbott and Rosenbaum went along with the fact that Hopper was claiming that these guys concocted this campaign fiasco that she molested her cousin. It was a total lie. Hopper was lying. And they knew that, and they hid that, and they still reported what she claimed in the paper without saying, "We know that not to be true." That lost me. They lost me on that deal. So now, the Yuba County government paper, the Appeal Democrat, has an article written by Jake Abbott. Gas tax repeal means grim future for Yuba County. That is a crock of crap right there. Incomplete road projects, layoffs. I think the sky is going to fall. I think there's going to be a volcano blow up above Browns Valley. Says one department head said the county would not be able to follow through on a number of road projects, and there likely would be layoffs if the revenue source. Why all this portraying fear? Mike Lee. I know Mike Lee. I've known Mike Lee for years. He's a good public servant, I think, works for Public Works. I think he's an engineer. He says he's actually the director of Public Works now. Well, good for him. He says, "I cannot express enough how grim the situation would be for our department if indeed that proposition passes." Now, let me tell you something. Let me give you some background. For 4 decades, the legislature of the state of California has taken your gas taxes. It isn't that new gas taxes are new. We've been paying gas taxes forever, and DMV fees. They have been taking those fees and taxes, and they have been paying for other stuff in the state. They've been putting that money in the general fund and not repairing your roads on purpose. So since 2011, it's 2018 today for those out in Olivehurst and Linda. It's 2018. Since 2011, us Californians have paid $1 billion in taxes and fees that have gone to other funds, not to roads, bridges, etc., culverts, da-da-da-da-da. Mike Lee, why don't you tell the whole story? So what do you do about that? So when they were trying to pass SB 1, which raised all these taxes a couple years ago, both James Gallagher, who's the assemblyman for our area, and Jim Nielsen, who's a senator for our area, protested, saying, hey, we're taking in lots of money. Use the money we're taking in and already and put it to roads. They would not do that. Okay? So it's not like there isn't money there. They say, so these guys, these public works guys who have all these jobs in line to do with this new money, this SB1 money, that now we're trying to repeal it and take our money back. All these projects are saying, well, if this thing is repealed, those projects will stop. They don't have to stop. They don't have to stop. There's money to put, there's the money, we already were paying road taxes. We already were paying. Does anybody drive a car, unless you're doing it illegally, that hasn't been paying DMV fees? I've been paying DMV fees. I'm almost 100. I started paying DMV fees when I was 16 and bought my first car. And I've been paying DMV fees every single year, paying smog fees, paying gas taxes, right? So this is unbelievable. It says the gas tax increase, Senate Bill 1, it's called the Road Repair and Accountability Act. Now, that's a euphemism. There is no accountability in Sacramento. They do whatever they want after they tell us something else. It says it was passed in April 1917. The increase is expected to generate over $5 million a year. Now, listen, we have been paying money to fix the roads. They have been taking the money and doing something else with it, like sending your kid to the store with $20 to buy some groceries for dinner tonight, pick up some meat, pick up some milk, pick up some potatoes. And he comes back and he spent it on stupid stuff. And now you still got to go buy the other month. You got to go buy the other stuff. Now, Lee said it's frustrating that the gas tax increase has turned into a political issue. Come on, Mike. What do you mean? Who turned it into a political issue? He says, later on, he said, it's easy to say no more taxes. No, it isn't. I guess it is and it isn't. It's easy for me because every single thing I'm involved in, I pay taxes on. Every single thing. I make a phone call. I flush the toilet. I turn on the water outside. I turn on the lights. I turn on the television if I had one. It's all taxed. Everything's taxed. I go to the grocery store. It's tax, tax, tax. I go to gas up. I buy a part. I buy a shovel. I buy this. I buy that. Everything's tax, tax, tax. There's over 100 taxes. I have a list at home. There's over 100 taxes I pay. And so, oh yeah, it's not like, hey, this is the first tax we've ever had in the United States, and so we're against it. No, we're already paying tax for the exact purpose, fixing the darn roads and the bridges, and they take it and they spend it the same way with the water bond. Did you know there's another water bond on this coming election? Another water bond. So he says it's frustrating that it's become a political issue. I guess. It's not frustrating to me. He said improving transportation infrastructure is an issue that everyone should be concerned about. When did he get born? When did he wake up? We've been complaining about the roads for decades, and the damn politicians in Sacramento will not do what we asked. You say, oh, yeah, they're our employees. The taxpayers are the bosses. Oh, yeah? When's the last time you saw that work out? If you have missed the fact that the government has taken over this country and telling you every breath to take, every move to make, oh, you can't water on this day. You can't water. You can't have Kevin Mallon. You can't do a fundraiser and wash people's cars for them because now that's against the law. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't. It's just ridiculous. The Department of Finance has done an analysis. This is a lie right here. This is a total lie in Jake Abbott's article. The Department of Finance has done an analysis of the actual cost of the gas increase to motorists. Based on their analysis, the user fee increased roughly $10 a month. That is total crock of crap. The actual cost, if we repeal this additional gas tax that just was passed a year or so ago, it'll save you $700 a year. When you add up your DMV fees, plus your gas taxes, your additional gas tax on top. We're not going to eliminate all the gas tax. We're just eliminating the 12 cents to 20 cents, gas and diesel. And we're eliminated the excess DMV fees, $25 up to $175. The average person will put $700 more in their pocket. You think, well, then we won't have any roads to drive on. That's ridiculous. All people have to do, Democrats and Republicans, communists, socialists, I don't care what your flavor is tell them, get the money from somewhere else and finish these projects, or we'll just simply vote you out of office and try somebody new. Now, he says towards the end of this article, it says here we're going to lose 6,500 transportation projects currently in construction if Prop 6 wouldn't, if this repeal happens, right? The fact is, that's not true. He is not psychic, and he's not running California. California legislature, if Prop 6 passes and it repeals SB 1 and saves you a minimum of $700 apiece, the legislature will have to sit down and talk about what are we going to do about all these projects where we got an overcrossing halfway finished. And they have money to take care of it. They just have it devoted elsewhere. Just like your home budget, there are certain things that are more important than others. And Sacramento hasn't had your interests in mind for a long time. And at some point, you just have to say, hell no. We ain't paying no mo. And get that money from somewhere else and get those roads fixed. So Mike Lee says, it's easy to say no more taxes, but people need to be aware of the impacts of that. If you want roads that are going to tear up your car, potholes, we're going to just scare the hell out of you. You know, we want your money. Give us Measure K. Leave Measure P alone, right? Don't repeal. Give us more money. We want 1% over here. We want another 12 cents here, 20 cents here, $175. Forget about it, man. You guys, we're the highest tax state in the union. People are sick of it. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. We're halfway point of the show today. We're going to go till noon, Wiki Man and I, and we're going to be here live. If you want to call, you can call 742-5555. Let's see. 1410 a.m., and I think we covered all the other stuff earlier. The Patriot. We're out here in East Yuba County on top of Mount Huth, and that was a pastor talking about the heritage of Donald Trump. Maybe you didn't know that. Pretty amazing, huh? So if you don't know much about Jesus or spiritual stuff like that, it maybe think, oh, that's kind of boring. But actually, if you looked, I don't have a television hooked up, but on YouTube, I looked at some of those hearings. Those are some pretty gnarly folks there. That was, you know, sometimes people just get angry, and sometimes there's a spiritual being that's like running the ship there. There's some really funky stuff. Did you see the photo of Dianne Feinstein and Kamala Harris kind of like that high-five? You know how they grip hands? They don't shake hands, but they slap hands like I don't know what you call that grip, but they were like celebrating destroying this guy, right? I thought, you know something, there's some real wickedness going on here. And we'll see. We'll maybe spend some more time with this. I wanted to touch on, I got an email today about the town of Gridley. Gridley's just up north of Yuba City, Marysville, in Butte County, southern Butte County. And I had written an article about the salaries of local salaries of administrators in our cities and counties in the Yuba Sutter, Butte County area, and highlighting how things, to me, it's so fascinating that these people with a straight face will pay themselves hundreds of thousands of dollars and then turn around and ask you to pay more money. It is so amazing. And some of these people go in the private industry, ask for a raise, and they say, we can't give you a raise, dude. It's amazing. I've seen businesses where they cut pay to stay in business. So I had written an article like, we can't afford the help. Can't afford the help here in the Territorial Dispatch a couple of months ago. And I'm just going to read what I wrote, and I'm going to tell you something that's happening. Some of the most shocking salaries I wrote are in Gridley, California, just across the Butte County line. Dean Price, chief of police, will earn $332,743 in 2018-19. That's the fiscal year, 12-month period. Line item AE in his contract forbids any cut in pay or benefits unless the entire management get the same reduction. Otherwise, it's a breach of contract. Dean is protecting number one. Does he have something on the city council, I asked. Chief Price watches over 2.8 hundredths of a square mile, just a little over 2 square miles city, and 6,074 residents. That's nearly $55 per breathing human, not for the entire department, but just to pay the boss. The total police budget is $2.8 million or $1.3 million per square mile. That's actually more than Marysville's paying. We got about $1 million a mile here in Marysville. It's amazing what people will pay that they didn't have to pay. Gridley's new city administrator, Paul Eckert, will collect $206,000. This is a city of 2 square miles, 6,000 people. Why would we even need a city with all these administrators? Why don't they just disband the city and just have a little uncharted area, right? We got areas that aren't even a city or a town. They're just an area, like Olivehurst or Linda or whatever. They don't have any administration. They use the county to administrate. Anyway, I went on to write that I called him Diamond Dean Price. The only person I could find getting paid more than him to oversee a law enforcement agency was a guy that was at that time running Los Angeles. Can you imagine a guy, I think the guy in Los Angeles got like $25,000 more than Diamond Dean. And I don't know how many people live down in Los Angeles. What, 9, 10, 11, 12 million people, right? And all the gang activity and craziness and politics, and give a guy an aneurysm if you played around with it too long. Anyway, the reason I'm bringing it up today is that I got an email saying that on the city council agenda for October 1, they're reviewing this salary. So I thought, well, all isn't lost. Maybe somebody's paying attention. So if you're up there in Gridley and you fell off the bed and the radio came on and it was me, go to the meeting on October 1 and say, hey, I think we need to give that guy a haircut salary-wise. Like, let me suggest something to you. Do you know that there are lots of people at the head of a sheriff's department or police department in California that are taking care of like 10 times that many people, 20 times that many people? Do you know that? Gridley people? I don't know who actually cranked this salary out for this boy. He may be just the sharpest guy in town. I don't know. He may be the sharpest lawman he may be Wyatt Earp up there. I don't know what he is. But at some point when it's like this. The guy used to joke when he'd come to Glad Tidings, we'd take an offering, right? And he'd make this joke, which I always got a kick out of. He'd say, we're going to take an offering, so reach into your neighbor's pocket and get his wallet and give like you always wanted to. It's always easy to give other people's money away, isn't it? It's interesting. City council members get in there. There's always this mutual benefit. Like Robert Bendorf says, you supervisors, you're working really hard, and you guys deserve more money. There's other counties get lots more money than you down in Yolo County and Sacramento County and Roseville or Placer County, and you need more money. And then they give them more money, right? Then they turn around and say, well, Robert, you're such a great guy. And, we've been comparing salaries, and you don't make as much as this city down the road or that city or county down the road and this county. And we're going to, have you ever considered a raise? You ever thought about maybe asking for more money, even though you're making like $250,000, $250,000 a year? And they said, we're going to give you a raise. And then he turns around and said, well, we're going to give you a raise. And it's just such a fun experience. Like we're going to give us all each a raise. It's just a mutual satisfaction. And who pays for it? You know, if as a supervisor's paying for it out of their own pockets, I'd say, well, you know, guys, like when people sometimes at church, they'll say, I'm gonna give some money to that family over there. And I say, well, are you giving out of your pocket or you want to give it out of my pocket, right? They say, well, I'm going to give it out of my pocket. I said, well, God bless you, man. Go for it, dude. God told you to do that. So if the supervisor, if they say, well, I think we ought to give old Robert Bendorf a raise, I'd say, well, who's paying for that raise? You guys paying for it out of your pocket? Everybody, you know, in politics, they're always paying for it out of my pocket. And then Mike Lee says, all you people are all getting sensitive about taxes. I said, Mike, you've been working for government too long, my friend. How much you getting paid over there? $160,000 a year. Why don't you go out in the private sector and flash your credentials and see how it works out there for you? And, you know, it's interesting to me. I was talking to somebody about it the other day. In fact, I got a call from a longtime friend, firefighter, still in the firefighter business. I don't want to throw him under the bus, so I'm not going to tell you his name or his agency. And he's from Southern California. He's a Mexican boy. And all his people, Democrats, right? Because that's what Mexicans did. They voted Democrat. And so he was working in the contracting business, small, you know, repairing, remodeling. It's tough business, a lot of competition. So he got a thought one day, maybe I'll take a firefighting class. Maybe I can get into firefighting, because he was handy and sharp. And he got himself through the class, and he applied for a job up here in this part of the country, and he got himself a job up here. And so now, after all these years, been a lot of years, he said, Lou, when we first started firefighting, he said, we had to have backup jobs. We'd work 10 days a month in firefighting. We'd get paid this much. And he said, I was doing contracting on the side. I was doing this on the side, that on the side, etc. Right? And now he said, we make amazing amounts of money. And so he said, you know, I'm a supporter of Trump. He said, I listen to your program. I like what you say. He said, I'm conservative. He's a Democrat. He's still registered Democrat. But he says, you know, this ain't right, what's going on. He's in favor of the wall, right? He's a Democrat. And I said, hey, right on. He said, I don't agree with the new breed of firefighters. Just said, I had a firefighter one day tell me, I said, he was complaining about getting a cut. He worked for Yuba City. He was complaining about them having to cut back. The cutback meant they didn't get the raise they were intended to get, right? They said, we can't afford to give you that raise. It was 2007, 2008, 2009, right in there, right? I was having dinner at fire station, and they were complaining, some of these youngsters, and they didn't get their raise. And they said, the morale's really low. I said, oh, why would morale be low? I said, we were sitting in this brand new station. Life was good, 60-inch TV blaring a football game, big lazy boy chairs, brand new fire engines, shiny fire engine there. Guys, I said, well, wait a minute. You guys are making around $100,000 a year, right? Oh, yeah. You got health insurance? Oh, yeah, health, retirement. Yay. I said, sounds pretty good. Hey, well, we got a 4-year college degree. I thought, oh, so what's that going to save somebody's life, a 4-year college degree? Going to put out the fire quicker? Got me. You know, there's this new generation, the millennials, they're full of baloney, man. So the old timers, they know what it really what a buck is worth, right? So my friend, he said, Lou, he said I'm still registered Democrat, but he says in my heart I believe in conservative principles, right? So up in Gridley, they're going to be looking at Diamond Dean's salary. And, of course, Diamond Dean says you will void my contract if you try to cut my salary in any way or benefits unless you cut everybody in the city. Well, how about doing this? All the management. Well, how about just giving a 50% haircut? If we gave Diamond Dean a 50% haircut, it would get him down to $160,000 a year to oversee 6,000 people. Chris Sachs over here at Marysville, who's the chief, he oversees 12,000 people. and I think he makes less than $160,000 maybe. I want you to think about that, Gridley. Why don't you, like, shake it up there? Just shake the whole thing. Say, Diamond Dean, we know we can't do this, so we're just going to cut everybody 50%. How about that? And he will quit. Then they can change everybody's salary to what they want. I don't know Diamond Dean. He may be the nicest guy I'd ever want to meet. Over in, let's see, Oroville, at one time, they had a guy named Bill Lagrone, and he oversaw both police and fire, and he did it for $198,000. Did both. I just met the new fire chief, Ron Clavin of Marysville, yesterday for the first time. Great guy, came from out of the area, and I said, "Oh, how'd you end up with the job?" He said, "Nobody here wanted the job." I thought, that's a bad sign right there, man. Nobody in the department wanted to even apply for the job. And so the fire chief before him was making $143,000 a year. Nobody even wanted that job. I said, maybe that says something bad about the city council of Marysville. So anyhow, well, I'm going to, let's see, switch up a little bit here. And we talked about 6. We talked about K. Oh, I had someone say to me, they contacted me that listens to the show, and they said, Lou, we want to know how to vote on some of these propositions and people. And we don't know these people. We're kind of new to this area, and we listen to the show. So anyway, I was talking to them about, some people know I put out this thing called Lou's Picks. It's not a voter pamphlet where I'm trying to get you to vote my way. I just do it for myself, so I know what I'm doing, so I don't have to guess. And I have some friends that routinely call me each year, and they want to know what I'm doing because they haven't had time to research the propositions or what, and I just tell them what I'm doing. I don't say you should vote my way. I just say this is what I'm doing. Do it, or don't do it. I don't really care. So if you're, I'm not trying to pitch this, but I'm just trying to get organized because this election is just a few weeks away, and I was working on it over the last couple days. So if you want me to email you or mail you Lou's Picks, you should send me your address, email address, or your physical address. You can text it to me, okay? Or you could call me if you can't text, and you could leave a voicemail, all right, and speak really clearly and slowly, because close is only good in hand grenades and horseshoes. So my phone number is 530-713-1838. I'll do it again, 713-1838, okay? And you can text me, or you could leave a voicemail on that number and tell me what your physical address is if you can't text, if you're working off a landline, right? That makes sense to you? So I'll help you out with that. Again, if you see my Lou's Picks, do not call me back and split hairs over things. If you don't like what I say, do something else, right? I don't have time to talk to you. And I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I'm just giving you information that I have for myself, right? So people call. Every time I do this, people call, well, how come you're doing this? Please don't call me and do that. I don't have time for the how come I'm doing this or that or this. Just do what you want to do, right? That's the point of voting. You get in the booth. You do exactly what you want to do, even if people thought you were going to do something else. All right? Do we got it? No, just another call. They're just probably wanting recology or something. They misdial. Everything okay? Everything okay. All right, where are we here, Santos? It's almost 11 o'clock. Holy mackerel, the day is just smoking by. All right. I'm just looking at my list. Things to do. Oh, but I got to tell you this. I was having lunch with a friend of mine who's a missionary, and we were having a nice lunch. We were talking about the persecution in China and Vietnam, where we both have interests, and the very difficult things that are happening to the under communism. You know, you guys that want socialism, You know, the whole thing in Vietnam was conservative people said, love it or leave it. You know, get out, get out. You know, we don't have to go there. If you want socialism, there's a number of countries that are full-blown socialists or communists. My feeling is just move over there. It's not like I say love it or leave it. I just think if you want socialism and you want to like experience it, there's a number of countries like Laos, Vietnam, Communist China, Venezuela. France is basically socialist. You know, go check it out and try it out. So the reason I bring it up, we were having a discussion this week, and I was having lunch at a restaurant, and this girl, young woman, not a girl, young woman, serving us, and I thought, man, she looks familiar. But a lot of these kids grow up in our church, and I lose track of them because I don't hang around them a lot. I'm doing other things. I'm in the jail a lot. And I lose track of them. I miss them for 4 or 5 years, and then all of a sudden they show up waiting on a table, and I thought, man, she looks familiar. Anyway, we got ready to get the check, and she came over and she said, somebody got your check, picked up your check, and our bill. And I said, my friend and I said, who did that? And she got kind of embarrassed, and she said, well, I did. So I had never had a waiter or a waitress, server, whatever you want to call them, pick up my check. So I said, how come you did that? And she said, well, you know, she said, you don't remember me, but I'm so-and-so's daughter, and you've helped my family at the church. And I thought, oh, I know your people. I like your people, but I don't remember, like, doing anything incredible for your people. But she thought I did, and so she paid for the lunch for both of us. So I said, well, what are you doing? Are you going to school? What are you doing? She said, you know, I was at Yuba College, and I quit because I got so sick and tired of teachers. She's a conservative, right? Here she's a youngster, maybe 18, 19. She's conservative. And she said, I just got fed up with teachers not teaching the topic and propagandizing over politics and wasting my time out there. Anyway, the guy that I was with he teaches at William Jessup University, right, just down the road. So he said, hey, I'll hook you up at William Jessup, and we can help you with scholarships. And so for you families out there that have got your kids going to Yuba College, you think, oh, Yuba College, it's just like it was when I went to school, and it's good, and pure people. Like even my friend Rick Teagarden's on the board. I don't think Rick has a clue what's going on in those classrooms. And because he'd be concerned. But this gal just said, Lou, I don't need that. I don't want that. I'm not going to pay and sit all day and be faced with that. So if you have kids that are looking to go to college, William Jessup is a great alternative right down here. It's a half hour away down the Highway 65. The other one is Hillsdale College, which honestly, if I had the life to live over again, had kids, I would push them to go to Hillsdale because it's a great college. It's in Michigan, freeze your tail off, but it's worth it to go to a great school. But anyway, that's socialism. There's a propaganda. It's throughout every institution. It's just not in the Senate chamber. But when I come back, I want to read this passage, the story out of the Bible that I think is relevant to the Senate right now. And if you don't like the Bible, it's okay. You can just ignore it, or you can just think it's a joke or it's a fable. But I think it's very powerful. So we'll be right back, and we got one more hour to go. All right. I want to piggyback on what Michelle Malcolm just said. She was giving an example of an account where a woman accused a man of raping her, and it was completely inaccurate. And the man, Joseph, ended up doing years of prison as an innocent victim. And I mentioned earlier that one of the listeners from Gridley area had sent up a number of links, and I'm sure you can Google that, of men. And all is interesting, as I looked at them this morning before I came on the air, all the men happened to be black, which is a bad sign. And the victims who improperly or inaccurately identified them as the assailant were both black and white, but they did 20, 30 years or more of prison time as innocent victims of being wrongfully identified. I want to read you an account, and I'm really wanting to catch the spirit of perversion that I think reigns in our, and I'm not talking about so much sexual perversion, but perverted evil ideas, a spirit of abuse and dishonesty, twistedness, and willing to destroy an individual for your personal advantage. And I want to talk about a situation that happened in Genesis, the 19th chapter. This isn't a religious program, but I think it captures the evil. You think, oh, how come that person went in and shot 54 people in San Bernardino? Or how come that person went and shot 18 postal workers and killed them? And how come that person molested her and cut her body all in pieces? Listen, folks, evil is present in our world. And to ignore that is just plain stupid. So this is a talk an account about the two cities called Sodom and Gomorrah. And there's a passage in the book of Hebrews that says, be careful to entertain people and be kind to people, because you may entertain an angel and not realize it. And I'm always looking for angels because I think they'll be pretty cool. In fact, I think I've met a couple. I think I know one, but she keeps claiming she isn't, but I think she is. She's so helpful to me. So this says two angels went into Sodom and Gomorrah to contact a guy named Lot because his uncle said, please save him before you destroy these cities, because they were so evil. You know, different cities are more evil. Some cities are more evil than others, and there's a reason for it. But I don't want to get off track here. I want to just read this to you to portray the evil spirit and sentiment that comes through this chapter. So these two angels who are, in other words, angels normally are spirit beings, but they're in a body here, and they could see them, and they show up. They enter Sodom in the evening. And Lot notices them, and they talk to him, and he said, come to my house. So he said, stay at my house. They say, no, we'll just throw a tent up in the square here, and we'll just camp. It's cool. We got this. We don't need to bother your family, right? But Lot urged them so strongly. In other words, Lot knew where he was living and how funky things were. Just like the people back in Washington, D.C., Lindsey Graham says, you came to the wrong town, the wrong people to get fairness. There's something really funky. You know, it's like my dad said, Lou said, you don't have to look at the label on things like the due date. Just smell it. You can smell funkiness, right? They said, we'd rather stay in the square. He said, no, I insist you cannot stay out here. It didn't go into details, but he knew that they were going to be assaulted, right? Just like those senators are so evil, they are assaulting a good man. Before they went to bed, the men of the city of Sodom, before these two angels went to bed, the men of the city of Sodom, these are two male angels, both young and old, and it says the whole population surrounded the house. They were so lustful for fresh meat, they came over there and demanded that those guys come out because they said, we want to have sex with these guys, right? Lot went out to them at the entrance, and he shut the door behind him. And he's tried to plead with these guys and said, please don't do this. This is an evil thing, on and on and on. Finally, he said, they've come under the protection of my roof. You know something? This Judge Kavanaugh has served this country and helped people sort out gnarly situations for his whole adult life. Been investigated 6 times by the FBI. If you are getting caught up in the fact that just one more investigation will solve it all, you're obviously clueless. Finally, they said, get out of the way he says, we're going to end up doing more harm to you than we're going to do to them. And they put pressure on Lot and came up to break the door down. This professor, this goofball lady, she's a kook. They paid her $600,000 so far to make a trip across the United States to trash this guy's character. Don't you get that? You know, I got a video where they interview people. How much would it take to kill someone? It is unbelievable. Person after when you go off, when you get out of the God lane and you just make up your own rules, people kill people for $100, $200, $400, $1,000, $10,000. They'll rob a bank and feel good about it. They put pressure on Lot, but the angels reached out and they grabbed Lot and brought him into the house and shut the door. They struck the men who were at the entrance of the house, both young and old, with blinding light, so they were unable to find the entrance. In other words, they struck them blind. Do you ever wonder how evil things need to get in people's lives before the judgment will come? You know, God says, don't take revenge yourself. I got this, right? But you wonder, and people in Bible days and have written Psalms about it, like, when are you going to take vengeance, man? This is gnarly out here. This is like super bad. And finally, the angel says, Lot, you got a wife and 2 girls, and the son-in-laws, right? They just, you know, some people just don't have a clue what's going on in life, right? So these angels, they can't even recognize good people when they see them. So the son-in-laws thought the whole thing was a big joke and stuck around and let the babes walk off with their parents and let them go and suffered the consequence of a destroyed city. You know, at some point, when you see photographs when people aren't thinking they're being photographed, whether it's Shirley Jackson Lee or Kamala Harris, Jack slapping hands with that old rich witch from San Francisco, Feinstein, not so Feinstein, or they're liars and cheats. You know who they're cheating? They're cheating the American people. They cheat you out of your money. They get contracts instead of fair contracts. They get contracts for their own spouses, like Pelosi does for her spouse, Feinstein does for her spouse. They use these positions for gain instead of for public service. They rip people off. People, what we're dealing with, and I've seen it posted, it's not a new idea with me. It isn't a matter of Democrat versus Republican. In fact, my firefighter, it was interesting. He said, Lou, I love your show. I listen to the show whenever I can on Saturdays because I agree with what you're talking about. And he says, but I'm a registered, and he said, I was talking to my mom the other day, and he says, Mom, you're actually a conservative, but you're registered as a Democrat. You know, we're dealing with good and evil. You know, a lot of times people, the Bible says that, and actually we see it ourselves, right? People's conscience can be seared. Pretty soon they just destroy people. I remember when Dr. Cassidy, who worked for 25 years for Yuba County, you know what he got at the end of 25 years? He got nothing but the satisfaction of helping thousands of inmates try to change their life, right, doing medical work. And for his hard work and dedication, 24 hours a day, he would respond to stitch people up and all kinds of things, people coming in off the street beat up. For his good work, he got nothing but evil from the Yuba County supervisors. Mary Jane Griego, Bill Simmons. They trashed him. They opened grand jury. They lied to the grand jury about him. They opened grand jury investigations. They reported him to the state medical board. They reported him to the Bureau of Narcotics Enforcement. It was just one major assault after another for over 2 years until he finally, until I believe the cup of evil had filled up, and God put a spirit of stupid on the administrators of Yuba County, and 3 of them ended up getting fired over that. And Cassidy, Dr. Cassidy, won a lawsuit. There were all kinds of lawsuits. Cost the county millions of dollars because of an evil person, Mary Jane Griego. Just totally evil. In fact, she got 2 addicts to sue Dr. Cassidy. You know where those addicts are today? They're both dead. Cassidy could have helped both of them, but they ended up being convinced, and I don't know whether she paid them, but she convinced him to sue Dr. Cassidy. They both lost. Today, they are dead drug addicts. Just something to think about. Evil people in power trying to destroy people in our country, our state, our communities. Evil people. Evil, evil people. It can get a hold of everybody. You know, the Bible says that we're all sinners, right? There are no perfect people. There are no... Brett Kavanaugh was not perfect, is not perfect, but he's a very good person, and he's got a good family. I want to read you a little bit. This is written by a rabbi, and when I was editing it, I think I clipped his name off. I wanted to give you his name, but I don't have it. Let's see if I can find it here. It says the title of this is Women with Teenage Sons and Daughters Would Support Brett. It's written by a Jewish rabbi. It said Chuck Schumer, the Democrats, and their spokespeople in the Senate seem to be spooking out certain Republicans with a threat that if Republicans vote for Kavanaugh, they will lose the women's vote in the upcoming midterms. That's probably true regarding that demographic group of women who would not vote Republican anyway. For instance, many single and unmarried who are relying on big government programs, etc., etc. However, tens of millions of women who currently have or previously raised teenage boys and even teenage girls will probably be alarmed if a precedent is set in the Senate confirmation vote that would penalize or snuff out the opportunities of a fully grown man who did something foolish while yet a minor or was accused of something that was never verified with any surety. Anyway, he says today's Democrats, this is a Jewish rabbi. A lot of Jews vote Democrat. He says today's Democrats play dirty, despicable dirty, in their quest for personal power, riches, and control over all aspects of American civic life. Democrats will equally play dirty tricks on conservative women running for office, bringing up or fabricating events from when they were teenage girls, charging them from that full basket of the new 7 sins: racism, intolerance, nationalism, whiteness, Christian evangelicalism, Islamophobia, anti-LBTG, We have seen them reach into this basket on many occasions. The Democrats have been successful in concocting false narratives that most often, in the court of public opinion, end up beating facts and the truth. For them, winning is everything, the only thing that counts. Now, I want to remind you that Shirley Jackson Lee was worth about $175,000 when she became a congresswoman. 10 years later, she's worth $3.5 million. I want you to hold that thought about becoming rich in public service. If Republicans do not stand behind Judge Kavanaugh, they will be enabling the grand plan of the Democrats to stop talented people from running as Republicans, conservatives, or constitutionalists out of a justifiable fear of their reputation, career, livelihood, and family being destroyed by the Democrat rumor monger machine. The only thing that works against intimidation and bullying is fighting back against it, not cowering or bowing to it. So he goes on to say the actual sexual sins of Ted Kennedy, Bill Clinton, Chris Dodd, Keith Ellison, for example, don't bother the very Democrats piling on Judge Kavanaugh for something, a groping or something over 30 years ago that may well never have even happened. Listening to talking points coming out of the mouths of Democrat senators, one hears loudly that being a man or white or religious Christian or too patriotic, something requiring an almost impossible bar to hurdle if one is to be purged of this a priori guilt and condition. What we are witnessing is actually bigotry, a blatant bigotry that has been seeping into the nation's culture and perception and accepted vocabulary that demonizes white Christian straight men and conservative religiously Christian women. It is today's Salem witch hunt. It surpasses McCarthyism and is rooted more so in hate by liberals against white conservatives than was the McCarthy's fear of an ideology. Thus far, the Democrats have dishonored the integrity of the Senate, and they and their paid protesters have soiled and trampled on what should be a dignified process. They are pulverizing and cannonballing America's institutions, and with it stealing these institutions from the American people. Their rhetoric, actions, and disregard for decency are bringing this nation to a new low. I don't know whether you remember, there was a guy, I think he was a executive for Carl's Jr. or one of the big fast food chains, and he was picked by Trump to be one of the cabinet secretaries, like labor or something like that. His family was threatened. I think something like an anthrax or some other powder was shipped into his house, and he just opposite of what Kavanaugh's doing. They were showing up at his house, intimidating his family. He just said, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to put my family through this. So it just isn't starting with Kavanaugh. This has been going on with people that were even in consideration to come in to the Trump cabinet, and as they were being considered, there was so much trouble being brought on family members that they withdrew their names. So this is the real thing that's going on right now. It was interesting to me when Dr. Cassidy was being assaulted by Sutter County or Yuba County health officials and supervisors, and not getting hardly any support except from a Yuba County captain named Mark Chanlis, who was running the jail. Over a 2-year period, his wife just said, I want to move. I want to leave here. I don't even want to be living in this county anymore. These people are sick, right? They had 5 kids they were raising, little kids. They said, you can be a doctor anywhere. I don't want to be a part of this, right? He never did a thing wrong. Never did one thing wrong. Nothing was ever proven. It was just one supervisor who was still sucking off the tit of government working for Garamendi, another sick, basically white Obama, totally tried to ruin a guy's life, a doctor's life, somebody that really actually does something for society as opposed to getting paid to shoot their mouth off and push papers around. If you don't have a guy with a strong backbone like a Cassidy or a Kavanaugh, you just get people bailing, because who would want this job unless you're full of crap like Kamala Harris, right? And you're full of bitterness. Have you ever imagined waking up across from and sitting down for breakfast with Kamala Harris? What a witch. Or Dianne Feinstein or Pelosi. People are held together by Botox and chemicals. Like those people, are they bad looking? I mean, it's just like evil to see with a straight face. You think, oh wow, that guy's he's got a felony. He's got a felony on his record. Honestly, people, the people with felonies on their record in Yuba County Jail don't match. They couldn't stand up to these gnarly folks back there as senators. These people are major thieves, twisters of the truth, perverts. We're talking about a Senator Kennedy who left his date submerged in the water and didn't even go to the police and get a rescue unit out there. What kind of people are these? We're not talking about a good or bad senator. We're talking about people that are just low life. Low life. You would not want your kids around them. They would molest them. They would rip them off. Dianne Feinstein, really? Barbara Boxer? Shirley Jackson Lee? I mean, the list is, there's hundreds of them, folks. They're corrupt. They're perverted. They just want power. They do not, they don't want Kavanaugh because they don't want the Constitution of the United States. It's not just about an abortion issue. They do not want the America that that a lot of us love and appreciate. They don't want that. So it's up to you to do something. You can do something. You can make a call. You can do an email. You can do a lot of things. You better do something, or you're going to lose everything. This is a high stakes deal. This is not just some guy. Oh, they'll just pick somebody else. Who would want to follow him? Would you like to follow him with your record, with your background? Would you like to take a shot at it after they get done with you, and they start paying people? How many people you think they could find somebody paying them? I'll tell you, they wouldn't have to pay him $600,000 to take my character apart. A couple $100 would do it. You know that I was reading Danny Duchesne, who murdered a couple farm workers in Sutter County back in the 80s. I think it was the 80s. He made $200 on the deal. Stabbed 2 guys to death. They split $400. They went out and killed one guy, and they ended up having to kill his partner too because he saw what was going on. $400. You think they could get you to talk trash about somebody and make up a story for $600,000? You were kind of a slut back in the day, and you can't figure out the time or place or who or him, but you think it was him? Honestly, people, are you kidding me? You believe that? I don't care whether you're a Democrat or a socialist. You're kidding me, right? You're going to believe all women wouldn't lie? You're so full of it. Really, you're so full of it. So let's see. All right, we got a couple minutes here. All right. Let's see what I'm leaving out here that I can jam in a couple minutes. Probably not much. Oh, I want to mention before we go to a break, we got 30 more minutes, so if you want to hang around, we're going to hang around. So you need to get registered to vote. I think you have till October 22nd or 23rd, right in there. It has to be postmarked the 22nd, I think. So you can get registered, and I think you can register online with the Secretary of State, sos.gov, or you could go to your county clerk's office and just do it very quickly right over the counter. Very simple. Get registered to vote, and for this upcoming election, we need your vote. You better vote. If you ignore, you get whatever is going to come to you. We really need a new governor here, a different governor than Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom's going to make Jerry Brown look like Mr. Conservative when Mr. Newsom gets in there. And Cox could actually win. He can't win without your vote. Did you know that millions of Christian people, when God actually, the Bible says, Jesus said, in the red letters, you need to be salt of the earth, city set on the hill. But people can't translate that into voting. Millions of Christians don't even vote. Sad if you're a Christian out there. You just are irresponsible and selfish is what you are. You happen to live if you lived in a communist country, you'd have an excuse. But you live in a country you can actually put a little Christian godly influence, like tell the truth, why don't you, instead of getting paid to just be a little information whore for the Democrats. We'll be right back for a 1/2 hour, and then we're out of here.
Did you know that California was never supposed to be just one state? Before the state was formed in 1850, there was discussion of forming 3 states instead of 1. California has an area larger than 7 East Coast states combined, and it takes 14 hours to drive from one end of the state to the other. California is simply too large to govern. Rural communities are being outvoted by more densely populated areas. The state of Jefferson is the solution. Please visit SOJ51.net to show your support.
check out the Territorial Dispatch. Papers are weekly and can be obtained free at distribution or by mail through subscription. It's the only locally owned and operated newspaper in the region. The paper is the rest of the story. And also check out the E-Territorial. It's an online version of the Territorial Dispatch which features local news and events for the Yuba Sutter, Colusa, and Nevada County areas. You'll also find daily and breaking news updates, current traffic, and weather information, along with a calendar of local events. Visit the E-Territorial at eterritorial.com.
All right, well, we're into our last segment here today, and we're finishing up here at noon, and we'll have a sports talk show following us. So if you like sports, maybe you would hang around, and they do a good job. I wanted to make some comments about California and the sanctuary state, sanctuary city stuff, because people are continuing to be violated, murdered, ripped off by people coming into this country illegally. And I think I noticed, although I didn't read the article, that a judge has ruled that the sanctuary state declaration is unconstitutional. But whatever they sort out about it, is we are letting a lot of desperate criminals into the United States. And liberals, the same type of liberals that are trying to destroy Brett Kavanaugh, are actually trying to destroy any kind of restrictions or screening or vetting that happens on people coming here. Now, even though they're putting Kavanaugh through this extreme vetting to be a Supreme Court judge, they don't want to ask any questions of anybody coming across that border. So here's what you get. A 6-time deported illegal alien accused of beating and killing 3 men over 7 separate attacks has been arrested and charged with murder. Ramon Escobar, a 47-year-old illegal alien from El Salvador. Think, oh, they're all Mexicans. No, actually, a friend of mine came in illegally who is Punjabi, and he came through Mexico. So, in fact, another friend of mine who has just been given asylum in the United States said that Al-Qaeda actually has a big complex in Tijuana, and they live there and live very nicely there, planning what they're going to be doing up in the U.S. So Ramon Escobar was arrested this week in Santa Monica, California. That's a nice area of California. He allegedly attacked 7 people in total, leaving 3 of them to ultimately die because of the alleged attacks, according to CBS Los Angeles. One of the remaining victims of the illegal alien's alleged attacks, where he used a baseball bat to beat his victims relentlessly, is still in a coma. I won't go into all the details. These are unbelievable. Deadly beating of a 39-year-old Stephen Cruz, has kids, left behind 2 children. Escobar fled to the sanctuary state of California from Houston, Texas, where he was questioned last month in regards to the disappearance of a couple of his relatives. Guess the guy even kills his own people. But he fled there, and he fled to a sanctuary state. Isn't that great? That's us. The illegal alien has been deported 6 times from the U.S. between 1997 and 2011, according to Homeland Security. He filed an appeal. This is unbelievable. He filed an appeal of his immigration case with the Board of Immigration Appeals in June 2016 after being deported. The court granted him his appeal, and he was subsequently released from federal custody in January 2017. Escobar now has been charged. I want you to. He's been charged with 3 murders and 4 attempted murders. He's being held in prison without bond. I could spend all 3 hours every Saturday just talking about these cases. This is so incredible. And politicians on the left, on the Democrat side, are just ignoring it. Here's another one. Illegal alien accused of murdering boat crew mate and is a DACA recipient. That means he's supposedly one of these guys that got brought in here as a child that they're going to give. He's a dreamer. They're going to give free education at Yuba College and pay his DACA fees every time he has to renew them of $400 to $500, and we pay it right out here at Yuba College. Same place that I have to pay bonds for that school. I got nobody in that school, and I'm paying for these DACA people. An illegal alien accused of murdering his boat crewmate and injuring 2 others aboard a fishing vessel off the coast of Massachusetts was allowed to stay in the country as a DACA recipient. Freddy Vasquez, 27, a Mexican national, reportedly entered the U.S. illegally in June 2001 near Brownsville, Texas, when he was 10, and qualified for deferred action under the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, otherwise called DACA, on November 30, 2013. So let me go ahead and skip the Obama-era program. That DACA, Obama created that. The Congress, he just ignored Congress. Obama just did that. If Trump would have done that, people would have had another meltdown. They melt down over anything Trump does, but Obama did that, and nobody, even Republicans, they just don't do jack. So immigration officials denied his request on August 16, 2016 to renew his DACA status. It had expired a year prior. The Mexican national's request was denied due to abandonment, meaning that he either failed to respond to inquiries from immigration or failed to make required appearance in front of immigration authorities. Vasquez has been arrested 2 times in 2018, was released both times on bond despite the expiration of his DACA status. In March, Vasquez was arrested in Newport, Virginia, for abduction by force, intimidation, deception, but authorities released him again on $20,000 bond. So now authorities have charged Vasquez with 1 count of murder, 1 count of attempted murder, and they released him again on bond. This guy, they just don't want to keep this guy in jail. If convicted, he faces a maximum penalty of life in prison and $500,000 fine. But they released him on bond. He is illegal in this country. Let me give you another one. Everybody's throwing a fit like these inhuman, unkind, inhumane ICE people are just going around. They drive up and down, and if there's a Mexican-looking person, they just pick them up. That's the impression you get in the media, right? But here's what the facts are. Immigration officials on Wednesday announced the arrest of 150 people in an operation in L.A. this week, including a man with a conviction for attempted murder and a woman with 7 DUI charges. I want you to think about that. My firefighter friends always warn me. They said, Lou, about 30% of the people on the highway have the 5 Ds. I don't think I can quote them to you, but drunk, drugged, deranged. Anyway, there's 5 Ds, and they said, be careful when you're driving towards people on the highway because they'll just come right over into your lane. I want you to imagine a person that's been not just drove drunk 7 times. They got 7 DUI arrests. When is enough enough? I got guys in jail right now at Yuba County, been arrested 4 and 5 times. The guy said to me, well, I didn't hit anybody. I thought, you're an idiot. The operation, which began Sunday, this ICE operation, was completed Tuesday. From Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, they arrested 150 people. Not just people that were just Mexicans. They arrested people that were convicted criminals, individuals who had violated immigration laws. 90% of the people arrested had criminal convictions, according to ICE. Are you interested in getting criminals off the street? I'm interested whether they're citizens of the United States or illegals. You know what happens when there's criminals on the streets? They commit crimes. Did you know that? They commit crimes. When criminals are locked up, that person quits committing crimes unless he's going to kill somebody in prison. So, according to ICE, about 40% of those apprehended had previously been released by local law enforcement agencies, even though immigration officials had lodged detainers against them, asking the arresting agency for notification prior to their release. A 36-year-old Mexican national had been arrested and released by local law enforcement 3 times this year, despite ICE having a detainer. He has been convicted of attempted murder, assault with a deadly weapon, contributing to the delinquency of a minor, failure to register as a sex offender, driving under the influence, and possession of a controlled substance. Another Mexican national had 7 DUIs in a little over 3 years. ICE had lodged detainers twice. The woman was released from custody each time. Arrests took place in L.A., Orange County, San Bernardino, Riverside, Santa Barbara, and Ventura. The larger scale operation is just the latest by ICE. In June, the L.A. office made 162 arrests. Of the 157 men and women arrested, most of them, 129, were Mexican nationals, according to ICE. The agency said almost 90% of the people arrested during that operation had criminal convictions. You know something, people? The folks that are in your Senate that are Democrats want to tear this place down. And the folks that are running the state of California, the majority party, Democrats that have been running this state for over 4 decades, want to tear this place down. And they hate law enforcement. And they hate the military. I want you to hold that thought. And if you think it doesn't really make any difference who's there making the decisions and voting, it makes a huge decision. It makes a huge difference. So Ben Stein, if you want to read a good article, Jewish Ben Stein, very bright guy, wrote an article, Stalin would approve. The only thing missing so far from he's referring to the Kavanaugh hearings, is live ammo. Live ammo. That's the only thing. What they're doing is a public whipping and shaming of Brett Kavanaugh, who is about as good as you can get in terms of character. And when you got to go back and whoever's listening today, and whoever isn't listening, who in the world couldn't get hung up by somebody coming up with an accusation 35, 36 years ago when you don't, they can't even put you at the place. They don't give you any specifics. And then did you see Feinstein ask Kavanaugh, why wouldn't you ask for an investigation on yourself? I thought, well, if you haven't committed a crime, why would you ask law enforcement to this thing is so bizarre and upside down. They have totally left. They've left the road and they're going cross wilderness in terms of legal ethics. When you're innocent, one of the hallmarks of United States freedom is you're innocent till proven guilty. Innocent, and you have a right to be confronted by people who are going to testify against you, right? It can't be some secret thing. Like originally, this gal wasn't even going to come forward and testify, and they were going to still beat him up with these charges. This is what they do in communist countries, people. You think, oh, well, I'm not quite sure whether this is right or not. Listen, people, if you're so stupid to think that, this is what they do in communist countries to destroy people. They just go in and pick up people where I go and do some work, and they just hold them in prison. There's no trial. There's no court date. There's no arraignment. There's no right to an attorney. You don't get jack. Just the same thing Kavanaugh's getting. He's just getting totally ripped off here. And if we allow it to happen as a nation of citizens and leave it up to these dirty dogs at the Senate to pile on Kavanaugh, shame on us. We get what we deserve. We get what we deserve. I want to mention this. This is unbelievable. You know, Trump's saying, hey, we're going to quit giving money to defend people who hate us or despise us or mock us, right? So Eastern Europe, Western Europe, pony up some money yourself. We're going to quit giving money to aid for hundreds of millions of dollars in aid to countries that are causing us trouble, right? And like you remember, Obama was bringing in hundreds of thousands of refugees, many of them Syrian, many of them people from an area that terrorists were coming out of. And the question is, why wouldn't you just relocate Syrians in their own country, right? And protect them and defeat ISIS? And why would you give them settlement in the United States? So here's what's happened. In the last 10 years, we have spent, these aren't illegal aliens. These aren't legal aliens. These are refugees. We've spent $123 billion. You wonder why the country, why we're in debt, why the roads aren't fixed, why the bridges are collapsing. We spent $123 billion in 10 years to support 606,000 people. In other words, we just funded a Sacramento, basically, and spent over $100 billion for people that can't even speak English. They don't have any skills. We're renting them apartments, buying them food, taking care of their medical, their educational, and then when they do get jobs, they push down the pay level because they're so incompetent and they don't have the skills. Let me give you some example. Respondents ages 25 or older average 8.7 years of education before arrival. About half did not have a high school diploma upon arrival. 29%, age 25 or older, listed their prior educational attainment as none. Zero education. What are you going to do with people like that? Among respondents age 18 and older, 16% were pursuing a degree of some kind, with most seeking high school equivalency. English language, how do you think the 600,000 were doing? Among refugees 18 and older who had lived in the United States 5 to almost 7 years, 53% spoke English not well or not at all, based on self-assessments. That's our own assessment. Employment, 59% of respondents 16 to 64 were employed, lower than the 67.5% rate for native-born members of the U.S. population. On and on it goes. Public benefits, 2% received respondent households reported public assistance as their only source of income. 27% received cash welfare, most often supplemental security income. 56% got SNAP, that's food stamps. 57% 18 and older reported having health coverage throughout the previous year. 34% had no health coverage. President Trump, thank God for President Trump, dramatically braked the inflow to 53,000 refugees in 2017 and a maximum of 30,000 in 2019. We're talking Obama bringing in hundreds of thousands of these people. What they've done when they get jobs is employers offer them much less than they would. You know, have you heard this saying, well, white people, Americans wouldn't do that kind of work. They will if you pay them properly. But when you pay people a ridiculous low sum, they don't have any option, they'll work for that sum. I'm talking about refugees. When you get rid of refugees, you know what happens? Wages go up. And people take those jobs because they think, hey, I can live on that wage. Because they're not getting all the benefits. JBS Meatpacking, a lot of them working in meatpacking plants. JBS Meatpacking Company raised salaries by 25% to persuade more people to work in a Texas slaughterhouse, according to the Washington Post. You think Trump isn't having an impact on increasing wages? Think, oh, well, people got those bonuses and stuff, but wages haven't ever gone up. Oh, yeah, they have. So I got a graph here. It just is so disgusting, the amount of money. So what Trump says, instead of giving them money to live like Americans live, let's just leave them in Syria, help them reestablish cities. It's much more cheaper to let them live over there however they want to live without all these social programs, and just help them establish new cities in safe areas. And therefore they're Syrians, so they can remain in Syria. Seems logical. Very logical. Okay. So that's that on refugees. By the way, in California, for all you that are wondering, Mike Lee at Public Works, oh, we're running the whole state by repealing the road law. You know something? If we wouldn't fund every illegal coming over here, free education, free food, Section 8 housing, medical, billions of dollars, we could have roads paved in gold, Mike, and bridges. Why don't you get politically out? He said it's all, this isn't political. Yes, it is political. Everything's political. Think some Christians say, "Oh, I think politics is dirty. I don't want to really be involved." You know something? You aren't involved. Most Christians I know are totally irrelevant. They have no impact on their community. They have no impact on their neighborhood. They have no impact in the business world. They have the same problems everybody else does. They don't seem to do anything much better than the average person. They're just irrelevant. And then they don't vote. It's like, why even pack a Bible or have, what is it, the Lord protect this home or this home serving the Lord, a little plaque outside their door? It's ridiculous. They're useless. And, it's like, oh, Lou, you shouldn't be so hard. You're like all negative and everything. Well, I'm just, the Bible actually says that. It said if the salt has lost its savor, all it's good for is just being thrown out on the trail. Maybe it'll keep the trail clean of weeds and it's just there to be stomped on, right? That's what we got in America. Millions of people that actually the Bible tells you what you should stand for, they don't stand for jack. In fact, you can't hardly tell. You go out to a place, they're drinking alcohol, they're just living like everybody else. What's the difference? I'm just, you drink alcohol, smoke marijuana, I don't care what you do. Shoot heroin as far as I'm concerned. Shoot yourself in the head. It's up to you. Do what you want. But, don't whine to me about, oh, well, this country, this country. You don't do anything. You don't vote. You don't do anything. Oh, by the way, I got a text. Somebody wants to lose picks, so I'll give you the phone number one more time. If you want to send me your address or your email or your physical address, if you don't have email, I'll send you loose picks when I get it done. And that covers Yuba and Sutter counties. Most of it. I don't get into a lot of the school board races and stuff, but I'll give you most of what's there, all the propositions, all the measures, all the stuff. So 713-1838, 530-713-1838. Just shoot me that. I'll keep probably in the next week. I'll get the loose picks done and get it out to you, so you'll have it before the absentee ballots get around. So let's see. Okay. Oh, are you going to be here next week, or are we going to have to do a pre-record? Well, so it looks like we're going to do a live show next week, so we'll be back as opposed to doing a live or a fresh pre-record. Again, if you somehow didn't get, I guess there's all kinds of ways you can listen to this and get it clear without getting off our live stream, right? Our live stream never worked today, right? I don't know how that works. I don't know all the technological, but I guess the people over in Idaho got to listen. and a variety of people are listening in other ways other than this through the radio signal. So, again, if you need signs, check with Monty Hecker at, if you want no on K, yes on 6, Cox for governor, or some of the other signs, you go by Monty Hecker's place at 5548 Feather River Boulevard, or you could go over to the Yuba Sutter Constitutional Republicans at 441 Bridge Street, Suite E, next to the Cookie Tree. And you can also go in there. Monty's is 24 hours a day. The Republican operation at 441 Bridge is at night, Monday through Saturday, 5 to 8. And you can also, let me just give you a phone number for Bill Beeler, 415-0343, if you want to find out what's shaking over there this next week or two, and you could dip into a candidate's night. Okay, we're out of here, and the sports guys are beating on the door wanting to come in. See you later.